Pilots are flocking from all over the world to Morristown, Tennessee to fly a last-of-its-kind instrument approach here. Well, not really. But Moore Morrell Airport currently has the only simplified directional facility, or SDF approach, left in the country. And in reality, there's a NOTAM on this approach saying that it's out of service indefinitely. But here in the sim, it's up and working and we're flying it. An SDF is similar to a localizer on an ILS approach, with some important differences. First of all, there's no glide slope used on an SDF approach, so it's a non-precision approach. Functionally, the main difference is that the SDF uses a wider course than a localizer. Because it's wider, it's less sensitive, so the same one dot deflection can mean you're as much as twice as far from the center line as you would be on a localizer approach. You may be familiar with an LDA approach, which also provides lateral guidance, but is often not aligned with the runway. An SDF is typically aligned closely with the runway centerline, it's just that it's less sensitive. Like LDAs, they're typically used because terrain requires an offset approach course, but here in Morristown, it's lined up right down the centerline. We're going to use the Jefferson NDB as our initial approach fix. The approach plate mentions several times that ADF is required, though it can be substituted with an acceptable RNAV system like most IFR GPSs. You can't use GPS to fly the approach though. You have to stick with the raw data from the SDF, or the green needles as we sometimes say, but you can use the GPS to identify where the NDB station is. Coming from the north, we're cleared for the approach, told to cross Jefferson at or above 3,200. We'll fly over the NDB. When the indication flips around, we turn outbound to set up for our procedure turn. We track the SDF course here, which we now need to use reverse sensing for. This means we need to think of ourselves as the needle and the course as the center and fly towards the center, a bit strange. We'll begin the procedure turn by making a left turn to 188, timing 1 minute, then making a right turn to 008 and intercepting the SDF course. The final approach fix is the NDB, so we'll be looking for the indication to flip for when we've crossed it. At that point, we can begin our descent to the straight-in MDA of 1860. If we were circling, we'd use those mins. The missed approach point is 1.2 DME from the SDF. DME isn't required, and if we didn't have DME or a suitable RNAV, we could time our approach using the table on the plate. But assuming we pop out and see the runway, we could descend below the MDA to make a nice landing. It's likely you won't see SDF approaches anymore in the future, since GPS approaches accomplish the same objectives nicely. But here's a look at what used to be a much more common type of procedure. Check out more IFR training and so much more at Flight Insight website, linked here and in the description today.